North Korea has returned what is believed to be the remains of 55 U.S. troops killed during the Korean War. The return of the remains, brought to a U.S. base in South Korea, is the latest move in the cautious diplomacy between Washington and Pyongyang. The move also brings renewed hope to families who have waited decades for closure.
Soldiers in ceremonial uniforms with white gloves slowly carry 55 small cases covered with the blue and white United Nations emblem, placing them one by one into silver vans waiting on the tarmac in Osan. The transfer of the remains coincides with the 65th anniversary of the 1953 armistice agreement that ended fighting, although the two Koreas are technically still at war because a peace treaty was never signed. Meanwhile, the United Nations Command in South Korea marked the armistice anniversary in the truce village of Panmunjom in the demilitarized zone and pledged to continue its mission to return the remains to families.
This repatriation is one more step along the way of many negotiations and confidence-building measures enabled by United Nations Command, working to thaw the years of mistrust in favor of cooperation and dialogue. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that the Command remains as committed and relevant today as it has for the last 68 years. It will not falter in its mission and will do its part to bring about lasting peace.
The repatriation of the remains missing in the 1950 to 1953 conflict is seen as a modest diplomatic coup for U.S. President Donald Trump, as it was one of the agreements reached during his meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong in Singapore, aimed primarily at securing the denuclearization of the North.
At this moment, a plane is carrying the remains of some great fallen heroes from America, back from the Korean War. They're coming back to the United States. Mike Pence, our wonderful Vice President, will be there to greet the families and the remains. And I want to thank Chairman Kim for keeping his word. We have many others coming, but I want to thank Chairman Kim in front of the media for fulfilling a promise that he made to me, and I'm sure that he will continue to fulfill that promise as they search and search and search. These incredible American heroes will soon lay at rest on sacred American soil.
More than 7,700 U.S. troops who fought in the Korean War remain unaccounted for, with about 5,300 of those lost in North Korea.
Between 1990 and 2005, 229 sets of remains were returned by Pyongyang, but this halted as relations worsened with the development of North Korea's nuclear ambitions. So is history likely to repeat itself in this case as well? My colleague Amarachi Ubani spoke to Professor Bola Akinteriwa, the former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, on this issue, and he gave us his opinion.
That incident between 1990 and 2005, when over 200 sets of remains were returned, but it halted relations, deteriorating between the North and other countries as well because of his nuclear ambitions. You think history will repeat itself in this case?
I think the answer is yes and no. Yes, from the perspective that if history is to repeat itself, it may not be for the same reason. The reason can be different. For instance, what happened in 1990, 2005, the mere fact that there was deterioration in the relationship, that led to the stoppage of, sending back the remains. But as it is, since the chairman, the leader of North Korea, wants to repackage and represent North Korea to the global community, there is no reason why it should allow a repeat of history.
We know that a few days ago, the North, started work on one of its nuclear sites, believed to be the nuclearization process already beginning there. But, we've asked this question several times. How trustworthy, how can we trust North Korea to keep its commitment to the United States that was made on June 12 about denuclearization? Do you think they're really well on their way, determined to denuclearize for the sake of renewed relations with the United States?
Two critical issues are involved. The first one is that there is the need to differentiate between complete denuclearization and partial denuclearization. Now, the United States talks about complete denuclearization, while North Korea is talking about partial denuclearization. So, in this case, that is already a conflict of perception. So, in this case, there is difficulty there. The other issue is that North Korea embarked on nuclearization because of the fear of the Americans. And the North Koreans are asking for a guarantee. All right. So when we are talking about the fidelity of the North Korean leader, the issue is, has the guarantee been given? And more importantly, when you look at the position of the United States, you discover that Americans have been talking not on the basis of sovereign equality as a principle, but they talk from a vertical perspective, not on the horizontal basis. And that in itself angers the North Koreans, which from all indications have suggested that North Korea may not easily accept that type of attitudinal disposition.
Meanwhile, the US and the EU have agreed to avoid an all-out trade war and work to lower tariffs in talks that President Donald Trump hailed as a very strong understanding. He and European Commission Chair Jean-Claude Juncker announced a new phase in EU-US relations after a meeting at the White House.
Over the years, the United States has been losing hundreds of billions of dollars with the European Union, and we just want it to be a level playing field for our farmers, for our manufacturers, for everybody. And we also want a big beneficiary, frankly, to be the European Union. So we think it can be good for everybody, and that's what we're here to discuss. Mr. President, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Mr. President. First, I wanted to thank you for having taken the initiative to invite me to the White House. We are close partners, allies, not enemies. We have to work together. We are representing half of the world trade. $1 trillion is the trade figure between us. Yes. And so I think that we have to talk each to another and not at another, and that's what we do today. I do think that we should focus on reducing tariffs, not on increasing them, and that's what we have to do. That's our job.
And that's Diplomatic Channel this week. Thanks for watching, and do remember to send your questions, comments and suggestions to any of the addresses showing on your screen. I'm Temitope Fagbemi. Bye for now.